All right, so Jay writes in and says, all right, look, now I go into the store. I've got no time. I'm running here and there. I'm doing all this other stuff. But when she gets into the store, she'll grab something that may say award-winning or something like this, depending on the display, and has been disappointed at times.
Yeah, I actually, in the 8 months we've been doing the show here at the ranch, I thought this was maybe the best question I've ever received.
Yeah.
I loved it because it's like, how do I do wine?
Mm-hmm.
And there's some tradition behind this. Up until the year 2000, wines were set by brands on the shelf. So when you knew the brand that you like, you'd go in and you'd find all the Gallo or all the Lindemans all in one section.
So they put them in by maker, not necessarily by all of the Chardonnays
By
in
the
one
type,
area.
yeah.
Okay.
But Gallo decided that that was not beneficial for their business model, and I don't know any more than that, but I know it was driven by Gallo. And they went to all the retailers and said, listen, we're going to reset all these shelves. And that's how powerful they are. They've got that kind of swagger that we're going to set this all up by wine type or varietal. And that's what they did. And so people had to relearn. It's like when you go to Costco and they've reset the store.
Yeah.
You know, you're all screwed
you're
up for a couple
completely
weeks,
lost.
right? So
Yeah.
the wine aisles were complicated enough as it was. And so it's the same kind of deal. You know, how do I do that? And so we went in on the blog and stepped Jay through how do I go in to that grocery store and approach the shelves. And one thing that consumers need to know is the least expensive wines are nearest the floor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the most expensive ones are at the top.
Okay.
Now, for some reason, I always find myself grabbing from the second and third shelf from the top. I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know. It's just the budget mindedness. You know, I'm usually after the good juice that's $12 and under.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it was interesting you mentioned, you know, not buying necessarily from the end caps. Because let's face it, I mean, when you're in retail and you put stuff on the end cap, it's stuff you kind of want to move quickly. So you might have, you know, maybe it's the bargain stuff or it's the stuff that hasn't moved very quickly that you want to move out on inventory. And like you said, I mean, there are exceptions to that. But a lot of times the end caps are not the place to find
no, but I always find myself cruising the end cap.
Well, you
you know, I don't know. You know, I'm looking for that hidden treasure.
Well, and the thing that's bad for me is, I'll tell you, on the rare occasions, I'm not a big wine drinker, but when I do go and buy wine, two things happen. Either one, I'm a sucker for creative packaging. I mean, it can be a really not good wine, but if it's got a really cool label or interesting packaging, it will draw my eye to it to at least give it a try. The other thing I'm guilty of, and I think a lot of people are like this, when I find a bottle of wine I like, very hard to get me to try anything else. But the one bottle I like...
That's a serious affliction, though,
I know.
the single label syndrome.
It's true. I've got it.
A lot of people are like that, though, don't you think?
But I mean, how do you differentiate other than, I mean, if you don't know much about wine and you say, oh, I'm going to go for the one with the cool packaging. You know, the other thing is, I mean, they're so good at marketing their wine. And, I mean, you read these bottles and it almost sounds like all your dreams will come true if you just drink this. It's been infused with all these great things. And
people buy by the label.
Picture.
I mean, about 82% of the consumers do that. And that's why here on the show, we like to focus on the terroir. So we want people to understand the regions that those grapes are growing in, the type of grapes that grow there, and what they should be able to expect from that bottle of wine, no matter where it's from in the world.
So if I go into the store and then my favorite wine, and the wine that we all love is on the bottom shelf, I should maybe
not be so cheap.
You know what? You drink what you like. And, you know, you remember our #1 rule on the Wine Guy Mike show. No rules.
No rules.
Yeah.
All right, so I didn't know that.
I want to encourage folks to read the whole article on the blog because, I mean, there are some tricks and knowing kind of how wine is displayed. And then, you know, at some point I would like to get into a little bit more of the labeling and what it means when they say that something has, you know, chocolate currant undertones and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know what that means, but... You know, but it's got a cherub on the front with a pot of gold, and I'm thinking,
hey,
all right,
good enough for me.
Why not?
And I recommended the Behringer brand for Jay because they've got the Founder's Estate is a great representation of varietal-driven wine. It's on sale at Albertsons. It's $8.49 regularly, about a $12 bottle of wine. It's a great value, a great brand. The Behringers, they know how to do wine. they deliver it at a real cost-conscious price for the consumer, and it's a great,
Pretty safe
great
bet
juice.
there, huh?
It's really great. I
Pretty
recommended a Pinot Noir and a Sauvignon Blanc that would be all-around food-friendly wines.
You can't go wrong with
There you
those.
go.
So visit the blog for a more in-depth discussion. But I think it was very interesting and a good question by Jay,
Yeah.
who wins our gift certificate today.
Yep, and get a gift certificate, go to Chow Mambo. Mike, thanks for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Good to see you. We'll see you again next week.
Okay, Wine Wednesday.
This temperature.